right. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for taking the time to join us on short notice. Before I begin, I want to acknowledge Jan Bledsoe, Chief Deputy of the Baltimore City State's Attorney's Office, Martin Hammond, Deputy Director of the Governor's Office of Crime, Youth, and Victim Services. I am joined by our Police Commissioner, Michael Harrison, our Director of the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety, Shantae Jackson, to share an important update around the work my administration is doing to reduce crime in communities across Baltimore. When I first took office, as you all know, I shared my action plan and ambitions, yet attainable set of goals to help transform Baltimore. These are goals that would truly help us see the progress needed in a variety of areas to help us reimagine Baltimore, creating a city that is safe, welcoming, and inclusive environment that we all deserve. The first pillar of my action plan is building public safety, because public safety is the solid foundation on which any city must be built. This administration is committed to implementing a comprehensive public safety strategy that requires a all-hands-on-deck approach, a strategy that truly recognizes that every agency, institution, and organization in person that interfaces with Baltimoreans has a place to play in reducing violence. Today, we are pleased to be here to share an update of the successful work and ongoing work of our Group Violence Reduction Strategy, or GVRS as we call it, as well as provide information around an investigation that has yielded significant results in our effort to hold people who commit violence in our neighborhoods accountable for their actions. I'd like to now turn it over first to Police Commissioner Harrison, who will give some more specific information about today's news. Mr. Commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and good morning to all of you, and thank you for joining us today. In June, the Baltimore Police Department and the Group Violence Unit detectives initiated an investigation into the Princess Plaza social network after multiple acts of violence in that area. BPD, along with our partners at DEA, executed search and seizure warrants on 5 locations and on 2 vehicles. During the execution of these warrants, the following items were seized: 7 firearms, 6 handguns, and 1 sawed-off shotgun, 85 grams of suspected fentanyl, 17 grams of suspected heroin, 111 grams of suspected crack cocaine, 169 gel caps of suspected heroin, 33 jugs of suspected crack cocaine, approximately 4 ounces of marijuana, more than $21,000 in U.S. currency, assorted ammunition, various packaging material, and multiple cell phones. This joint effort in partnership with regional and federal law enforcement resulted in criminal charges for 12 members, including 2 17-year-old males. All of these individuals have prior arrests to include various narcotics arrests, armed robbery, handgun violations, assault, attempted murder, and even murder. Since piloting the mayor's group violence reduction strategy in the Western District earlier this year, we continue to see notable reductions in gun-related violence incidents, to include a 33% reduction in homicides year to date. Our group violence unit, in partnership with our local, state, and law enforcement partners and community organizations, are using on-the-ground intelligence to direct our efforts in identifying and apprehending individuals and groups responsible for committing violent acts. We know that public safety is a shared responsibility, and the path to successfully reducing violence involves more than just law enforcement alone. BPD is committed to strengthening our partnerships as we all work to break and end the culture of violence and sustain ongoing efforts to reduce violent crime through prevention, intervention, rehabilitation, reentry, and enforcement. I want to take the time to thank the men and women of the BPD who continue to go out each and every day to serve and protect and work with our communities to make neighborhoods safer. We've made more arrests today than this same time last year, and this is partnerships with our communities. I've said it before, and I'll continue to say it: those who commit violent acts will be held to account. And these arrests are the first of many in sharing our progress and commitment to the mayor's group violence reduction strategy, and by using all the tools available in both our short-term and long-term crime strategies to reduce violent crimes in our city. So I want to thank the entire team, and we look forward to many more successful partnerships that lead to successful reduction in homicides and non-fatal shootings in our city. At this time, I'll turn it over to Director Jackson.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, folks. Thank you, Mayor Scott and Commissioner Harrison. Public safety is the mayor's #1 priority. The group violence reduction strategy is a critical component in driving down gun violence in our city and is one of the strongest gun violence interventions. GVRS leads the mayor's comprehensive violence prevention plan. It is literally the first strategy listed in the plan. It's not a standalone strategy, but it is a deeply integrated one. GVRS gives individuals a choice: step away from the life or deal with the consequences. Today's arrest, based on local investigation and coordination between the partner agencies that stand with me today, is a fulfillment of a promise that those who choose to engage in violent behavior will be swiftly held accountable. At our inception as an agency, MONSE was charged with leading and owning the GVRS strategy for the mayor and has been deliberate about building a strong foundation for GVRS, ensuring that the interagency coordination, community and supportive institutions and resources were in place to make a real impact and allow for successful scale. It's our honor to manage this work. That long-term foundational work was critically important, as Baltimore has seen multiple failed attempts at this strategy in the past when the city tried to scale up too quickly, when we lacked buy-in from the principals, and when we overlooked the resources that were needed to keep people safe, alive, and free. I'm proud to say that Baltimore and this team of interagency partners stands here today fully committed to this strategy. We are seeing it bear fruit. We have engaged over 180 folks as a part of this work, including 43 custom notifications, 87 total arrests across 3 investigations, 38 referrals to life coaching, 9 emergency relocations, and so much more. Under MONSE's leadership and in partnership with BPD, the state's attorney's office, the governor's office, and many other partners and community-based organizations, we're going to continue to build on the foundation as we work to scale GVRS beyond the Western District. MONSE is preparing a scaling plan for this strategy to move it across the city using data-driven and capacity-driven planning. It's going to take 3 to 4 steps for us to span the entire city. However, reaching full scale will not take 5 years, as some folks fear. We have said from the beginning that this strategy is going to take time. We know that cities that have done this strategy and stuck with it have gotten significant results. In Baltimore, we're beginning to see the impact of this strategy today in the short term. And we're cautiously optimistic that through the interagency partnership that's on display here today, paired with this mayor's unprecedented commitment to this strategy, that we're going to continue to see results of GVRS and spread them across our entire city. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Director Jackson and Mr. Commissioner. This is impactful and great news for Baltimore, and we're very thankful for the work of BPD and MONSE and that you are doing to create a safer streets through a comprehensive violence reduction strategy in Baltimore. I also want to thank our partners in the State's Attorney's Office, the Governor's Office of Crime, Youth, and Victim Services for their deep collaboration and engagement. The work is intense and is something that cannot and will not be done in silos, so we thank you all for your partnership. In order to have safer communities across Baltimore, it will require all of us, my administration, the State's Attorney's Office, our friends in Annapolis, our federal partners, community-based organizations to work together. The people who live and work here, as well as those who visit what I know to be the greatest city in America, deserve nothing less. And we want to say thank you at this point and open it up for questions.
I have a question. Can you explain exactly what the Princess Plaza social network is. Is it a gang? And by Princess Plaza, do you mean that gas station on the west side? Can you just please give us a little more information on what you mean by that?
So it's a social network of people who were selling drugs and involved in violence in the area where the Princess Plaza is, in the entire shopping area. While we're very cautious about how we identify groups and gangs under a particular name, there was a social network that they were all selling drugs and involved in violence, which is what group violence reduction strategy is about, the violence. That because of the violence in that area, we began this investigation and began to targeting individuals who, through their social network, we identified were involved in violence.
And I have a clarification for you, Chief. You said, quote, it was a quote, you said, we've made more arrests today than the same time last year. Do you mean year-to-date overall in the city? Do you mean all arrests, or do you mean specifically felony arrests?
I think it's both all arrests, and it's also specifically gun arrests. We've seized more than 1,600 guns and made more than 1,000 arrests for people illegally carrying guns, which is far more than we did this time last year. And for the total amount of all arrests, that increase is the same.
And finally, for our viewers, can you help connect the dots for them between, because I realize that there are handgun violations in this among the charges here, but according to what we saw flash on the screen, nobody was arrested for a violent crime. Can you help our viewers make the connection between the arrest made today, or that you announced today, and how these individuals, as you said, are specifically responsible for acts of violence?
Well, so what I will say is that there are people in this number of people who have been arrested who are responsible for the possession and or the sale or a combination of both of the drugs you see. Some of them we suspect are involved in violent crimes in the past from that surrounding area. And while they may not be charged with the specific violent crime, because of the violent crime, we initiated the investigation into this area and began to target certain individuals.
I have two off-topic questions. I'm sorry, wait, are they regarding this topic?
You said it's off topic?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I have an on-topic question, I'm sorry. Where are these, there's 10 faces, or the two we don't see, the 17-year-olds, and where are these 12 men today? Are they behind bars? Where are they?
So the two that are minors are not shown today. We have made arrests on all of the individuals. We can get you the answer on who among the group is remanded to jail and who might be out because they're out on bail. We can get that to you.
Oh, so some of them have already seen a judge and then?
We can get that to you.
Oh, okay, I thought you would have that.
Well, the information is about the arrest that we've made. And so if you're asking about who is still in jail or who might have seen a judge and be out, we can get that information to you.
Although you do have a prosecutor behind you, maybe she might know. I don't think it's a ridiculous question to ask.
No, Kate, it's not, I don't think, you're right, it's not a ridiculous question, but I think what the commissioner and what Ms. Bledsoe is saying is that sometimes these things happen very quickly, so we'll give you the follow-up information because people do get released. I think you and I have had many conversations about that over the years, about how quickly. So we'll make sure that you have the latest information. We don't want anyone up here to give you information and it be incorrect.
Thank you, thanks.
Any other questions about this topic?
No group violence reduction questions? I'm shocked.
Okay.
Go ahead, Alexa.
My first question is related to the agreement the city, the police department made with the block, the district, near the police headquarters. Owners there have expressed frustration. They say the city has not held up their end of the bargain, the deal. Those two officers, they say they were promised, yet expressed the frustration that they've seen the added security for the squeegee kids at those intersections. Does the city plan to hold up its end of the deal?
I'll let the police commissioner talk about that, but I would say in a second, just say first, if you go to the block at night and you see the amount of police presence, we actually know for a fact that as you guys, I think Alexa, it might have been you to ask the question, that last year we had a gentleman about to shoot 4 women in the back on the block, and he was stopped by a Baltimore police officer who was standing on the block. So it's a place that always has police coverage. I'll let the commissioner go into the details.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Well, we dispatch officers every single night of the week to the block, and sometimes we take officers from other neighborhoods, and we have more of a concentration there than we have in almost any part of the city, and that has always been the case. That continues to be the case, and once again, it's always an assessment of where resources are needed, and we put resources on that block every single day.
My second question is related to Project Baltimore. Sorry, we're doing the We're trying to stick with the guidelines here. Okay, Project Baltimore has reported on several failures and concerns over the last 5 years. As mayor, what steps specifically have you taken to address the problems Project Baltimore has uncovered?
So again, for the residents of Baltimore who are watching this, be reminded that the mayor of Baltimore does not control Baltimore City Schools. What we will continue to do, as we always have, is my job is to make sure that we are now, with my position, to put the best school board in place who will help to oversee the school system. We're also going to continue, as we for our residents who are watching this, spending now records amounts of funding into our school system that has been underfunded by the state of Maryland to the tune of $300 million a year for more than 10 years. We are now starting to see our school system make those investments. Last year, we opened a record 6 new school buildings in Baltimore City. We're going to see the funding go there so that we can start to create the education system that we need, and we'll be here to hold the accountability on the other side.
One more question.
Anybody else?
We
Thank-
get another
You
question?
get three.
No, I have an on-topic question.
Oh, go ahead.
Just listening to all this, so can you walk me through the time this investigation started in June? These people were arrested when exactly, and does it concern you that they may have already been posted bail given their involvement in what was clearly a concerning criminal network?
Well, I'll start, and then I'll let the director and the commissioner go through timeline. I think, Mackenzie, you and I talked about this last week. It always concerns us, right? That's why you hear me say consistently, basically every day, that we should not be arresting the same people over and over and over again. And we see that. We've seen people who we have arrested this year for shootings become a victim of a shooting later on. We've seen folks, there was a gentleman who was on trial for murder in Baltimore County be released, and those charges drop, and then he's dead on the streets of Baltimore. This is why you hear me say consistently, and why I'm excited to, as we're getting new partners in the state's attorneys and the governor's office, to talk to them about systemic changes that have to happen after the arrest, because when the police department is making more arrests and seizing more guns, right, with less police officers, we've seized more guns this year than we even did in 2014, and we had a lot more cops back then. So we know that they are being productive. We know that they are going out removing the guns off the street. But it's also about what happens after that, and that's what we have to work with our partners on, to make sure that we're doing everything that we can send the best cases, but to also make sure that we're not having these frustrating times when the police department and state's attorney's office are both frustrated because someone just keeps getting released.
Any questions, gentlemen?
Were you going to chime in?
Well, I think the mayor answered it very well. The initial roundup of arrests was on Thursday. There were a couple or a few who were arrested prior to Thursday. We know that at least one may have been released, but people aren't, we follow the law. People are entitled to bail. And so what we're concerned about is people committing more crimes after their release and are becoming victims of crime after they're being released.
Just one final point, if I could. Just one final point, if I could here, Mackenzie. One of the critical components of the group violence reduction strategy is making sure that our criminal justice partners are in the room. It is why you see the state's attorney's office behind us, why you see the governor's office behind us. There are also federal partners, DEA, FBI, ATF. All of these folks are in shooting reviews together every single Tuesday to make sure that we are building solid cases. And just want to be really clear in saying that that wasn't necessarily the case before the implementation of this iteration of the group violence reduction strategy.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.